You prompt like an idiot, and we're going to fix that today. Here are 5 examples that we're going to use to describe how to one-shot agentic workflows, the prompts that were contained, and I'm going to show you as a bonus right at the end of this, a couple of examples, or one specifically, that didn't work, and I'll explain why it didn't work. All right, I have 5 blocks here of code, which are basically just, if I zoom in, you'll see that it's just marked down, and you'll see how it basically follows, or the way that this is written. But we're going to start off with an understanding of prompting in and of itself. Now, as far as prompting is concerned, I'm not going to sit here and show you, oh, this is what a prompt is, this is how to prompt. You already know this. I'm not going to go there. But I'll show you how I prompt. And the first way that I like to think about prompting is through the 5 pillars of prompting. Now, the 5 pillars of prompting is something that I've been using since, I would say, 2023 with GPT. But the whole point is this: you have 5 headings that you are going to put inside of your prompts. The first one is role, the second one is context, the third one is objective, the fourth one is output requirements, and then the fifth one is format requirements, or formatting requirements. Formatting requirements. These 5 contain everything that you would ever put inside of a prompt. So what does this mean? So the role is really simple. This is literally just, you are a blank, you specialize in blank. That's pretty easy to understand. Then you have the context. The context is, it's the context, really and truly. It's everything that is needed insofar as background information in order to successfully achieve the goal that you are trying to achieve, which is found in the objective. This is usually a 1 sentence or a 1-liner, and sometimes is broken down into maximum 3 bullet points. So your task is to do this, this, and this. You want to do A, B, and C, or your task is to do this, or it's just a basic simple line. Then you have output requirements. This is everything that needs to be involved inside of the output, or what you're looking for, and what needs to be achieved in that kind of sense. And then the formatting requirements, if I'm doing something like creating different pieces of content or whatever it may be, the formatting is going to follow specific ways of doing. So that is the 5 pillars of prompting. That is not what we are doing here, but the principle carries over to the way that I've been able to one-shot a lot of these different things inside of Cursor. So we're going to go over to the very first one. And the very first one is the website scraper. So I'm going to read it, and then we're going to talk about it. So this one here, the website scraper, the goal is bulk scrape the contents of a website to answer specific questions such that the user can confirm that he's actually reaching out to the right businesses via cold email based on his goals. So we have a goal, and then we have definition of success, and then we have the flow. You'll see how I break this chain. For the most part, they all have a goal and a definition of success. Some may have some other things on top of this, but this is all I've written. Companies meet chosen criteria with a simple true false. Criteria stored in the CSV in a separate column. A summary of what the business does based on the search is also provided. The right pages are scraped by looking at the site map and picking the most suitable ones. The scrapes are done in parallel as to maximize speed without hitting rate limits. Errors with the scrapes are handled gracefully. The scrape doesn't stop abruptly. Duplicate websites aren't scraped. JavaScript heavy pages are handled. And common suggestions and user preferences are stored and used to self-anneal for future iterations. Now, some of this may sound like gobbledygook, like absolute garbage. The reason being is because I already know a little bit about scraping. So what I did in order to come up with some of this information, besides taking the stuff that's already up here and putting it on the paper, is get an understanding of exactly what I know will trip up the AI in the process of doing what I need it to do. This is where having an understanding of error handling in general, or just shoring yourself up, or redundancy is probably the best way to describe it. Having plan Bs, having extra information or extra stuff to look out for in the event that X, Y, and Z happens. When writing these definitions of success, that's kind of how that needs to look. Then you have the flow. Number 1, user provides a list of company URLs either directly in the chat or via a CSV. Number 2, the agent takes the company URLs from the scraped list, deduplicates them, and then runs the website scraping prompt on the first 10. Present the findings in tabulated view or a sample CSV with just the company name / website and the result. You're asking the user if you're good to continue. User confirms. If suggestions provided, the agent makes the changes. Repeat steps 2 to 4 until good. Run the website scrape in full. Match company URL, scrape to contact and enrich to contract, and enriches the contact information with extra columns. All right. So this here is a flow, And this flow is triggered by a couple of different things inside of cursor. So here you can see me, and I'll move myself out of the way. You can see the scrape_website.py, website scraper with parallel HTTP and Geno racing. So the way that this was designed, and I'm actually going to double check to see if this was imported into the information that was in here. So, okay, no, it wasn't. It was spoken about when we got into the way that we are actually doing this. The whole point of this is this was created, but the prompt was made first, and then this was created using the planning mode, which you can see down here. When you click on the infinity mark here, you click plan, goes into yellow. If you were to put any of these prompts back in here, it would say, oh, it will ask you a couple of questions. How do you want to do this? How do you want to do this? How do you want to do this? Whenever I've done this inside of NAN, I've always used Gina, or I've used just the random HTTP module. Those two interchangeably are perfectly fine. The third one is called Playwright, and that's used for websites that have a lot of JavaScript, which is what this one was. So that's how I got there. All right, that's one example of a type of prompt. Here's a cleaner one, and this one here is for email validation. So email validation looks a little bit like this. So the goal is, and I'll move myself out of the way so you can see the entire thing again. The goal is prep a list of emails by running them through email validation, removing the invalid emails, and then attempting a basic catch-all verification to confirm if a catch-all or unknown is actually unknown. This is the definition of success, pretty simple here. And then Python script recommended by NeverBounce is this. So sometimes the tools that you are using within the thing that you are trying to prompt and create will give you code in order to build it. For example, if I go right now onto trigger.dev, this is used for deployment for AI agents and workflows. If I just log in again, you can see this. Whenever you open up apps that are specifically designed for developers, a lot of the times they will have terminal commands. These are things that you can literally just copy and paste into the agent inside of here. I could just copy and paste this, and then it would start a trigger deployment. It would say, oh, this is npx trigger.dev. It's probably asking me to do this inside of trigger.dev. I'm going to do this in trigger.dev, and then it will just build it. So things like this are provided to you, not just by the apps, but also by the documentation that is involved in what you're using. So this one here came from the documentation on NeverBounce, and it's just this. Now, granted, this is a Python script. Okay, no, it is Python, because I thought it was going to be TypeScript. If it was TypeScript, they'd have to redo it and do all that nonsense. But a lot of these scripts, because you can see that they're written as .py, they're Python. So if you're ever going to inject some code from an API reference into a very simple directive, then you need to make sure that you take Python if you're using this. So that's kind of the example there. So that's number 2. So I'm sort of showing you the ways that things will differ from the 2 things that I always add, which are a goal and a definition of success. Number 3 is the MX validation. Now, why did I even do this in the first place? Well, if I type in MX validation, I'll show you that there is a tool called Lead Magic that does email validation and a bunch of other things insofar as how, validation of emails goes. So you can find emails, you can do mobile number finder, mobile number validation, profile search, role finder, local lead finder, company finder, job type finder, all of this stuff. Now, these guys are the only people who have MX record provided. These are the only people who do this. I thought this was pretty simple, so I just wanted it for myself. So what I ended up doing, and the reason why I even need it, is because when you're doing cold emails, a lot of the times Microsoft inboxes, especially now with how bad AI is in general, or at least how hard it is to land in the primary inbox for people who have Microsoft accounts because of the way that AI looks. Any email that doesn't look like an email that was already sent from a warm person usually gets blocked. And it's actually gotten to a point where people aren't landing in the inbox for work emails in Microsoft. Microsoft is just a shit show right now. So if I can remove or manage my Microsoft leads differently to my non-Microsoft leads, then I'm making better campaigns that work more efficiently, which is exactly what I'm doing here. So the goal: find the MX provider for the email in whatever email column exists so that we can find emails owned by Microsoft, Outlook, Google Workspace, or others, because deliverability from one provider to the next often changes how well campaigns perform, and we need different copy for MS providers versus non-MS providers. Definition of success: an MX provider search is run on each email found per row. A new column is appended at the end of the sheet called MX provider, which returns the name of the provider. Errors are handled gracefully. You'll see errors are handled gracefully a lot. I put that down a lot simply because that is something that I've seen a lot of the time translate really well into being able to handle when certain things will occur. But again, a lot of this stuff is things that you just end up picking up when you do this more. And now we have a really big one, which is actually for something that's pretty simple. This is just a company name cleaner. And I'll show you why this is as big as it is. I have the goal here, and I'll just read the goal. The company names from scrapes can often be really scrappy and not look good, making them look really AI generated / show a lack of care when creating emails. Our goal is to have a company name that we can use as a merge field without it creating warning flags for recipients that make it sound human-like. Now, all I have here is a very simple definition of success called clean company name created as a column next to the company name column in the provided sheet. And this is another thing that I normally wouldn't do if I don't double check the thing rigorously, but I was looking for the old prompt that I would use whenever it came to creating for cleaning company names, because it's very easy to miss a lot of stuff, and AI is getting better with it. But there's been so many times where I've sent an email saying, hey, saw that you worked with Ajexa Intelligence Inc. Corporation.ibm. It's like, bro, get rid of all of the stuff before Ajexa and you're fine, or after Ajexa and you're fine. So I was looking for the one that was basically allowing me to do that, and this is what it was. So I basically injected a prompt inside of my prompt. That's what this is. So now that I have this and I know that it worked and I know that it was good, I added this at the end, and this is something that is really useful to do, especially if you have the money to do it and you're doing something which isn't too intensive. Use 2 cheap LLMs and then have a third LLM pick the most suitable out of the 2 provided. This has been so useful for me just as an idea that I've just been using this in so many different places. So that's the company name cleaner. And then number 5 is the icebreaker generator. So this is the first line generator. And the way that I had this work, it's less impressive about about what the goal and definition of success is. It's more impressive about how it was managed and how it was iterated on. So the goal is just being able to create personalized compliments in emails in order to get a better reply rate from emails. The definition of success is using the LinkedIn scraper, the website copy summary, and any relevant fields from the existing CSV to generate single personalization icebreakers for cold email campaigns that match these templates. I wanted to guardrail the hell out of this, so I gave it specific templates. And then after some time, I actually got rid of this one because this one sucks. And then it's just the rest of this information here. And all of these 5 were one shot. It was, and I'll show you exactly what the process was. I would take this, for example, go into Cursor, and then if I open this up, I would paste it in here. In fact, let me open up a new folder first. So I've just opened up a new test agents space, which you can see right here with directives, execution. We have agents.md, claude.md, gemini.md, package.json, requirements.txt, and which is a boilerplate. Like, this is going to be in every single agent that you make. And then I have the prompt here, which is just for the icebreaker generator. I don't know if this is currently open right now, so I'm just saying create this in test agents. But this is what I always do. I'll have my prompt, I'll paste it in here, and then I'll click plan, and then we'll see how it goes. And then the first thing it's going to do is it's going to say thinking. The user wants me to create a bunch of stuff. This is the output. Before I create a plan, this, that, and the other. Self-renewal preferences from the user. What does this refer to? Is there a preference system in place? I'll investigate CSV structure, output. Let me explore the workspace first to understand what tools and code already exist that I can leverage for this task. There's already a marketing workflows for, don't go in here. Okay, so it's going to find out what's already been made. Now, I believe it's going to copy and paste the one that I've already made. So this is unfortunately not the best example of what I would want insofar as the test stage is concerned. But we'll run it. We'll see how it goes. And this is the plan mode anyway, so it's not going to build anything. But you can see how all we're doing is we're looking at how it works. But it's saying, I've reviewed the existing icebreaker system and marketing workflows. There's already a fully built system. Before I create a plan, I have a few clarifying questions. Should I copy and adapt the existing code for marketing workflows or build a fresh and simpler version in test agents? we'll just say copy and adapt, who cares? Where does the website copy summary come from? But you can see this is the flow that you will actually end up going through. You can see that it's asking you a couple of questions. There's 2 or 3 questions here. After it's asked these questions, it's going to create its own little markdown file, maybe even with a couple of diagrams that it's drawn out. And then from there, you can ask it questions on top of what is received, and you will just go through the plan. Once the plan has been confirmed, it will create what's called to-dos, and then those to-dos will be turned into the code that actually gets made. So you can see here, that's what that one is. Where does the website copy summary come from? The existing system. I already have it in a CSV. Do you want a self-healing preference learning system? Yes. Include preference learning. Continue. And then it's going to create a plan, and then that plan is going to be turned into the tool that is going to, let me create a clear plan. So it's going to do that, and it's going to build and build and build until we have this icebreaker generator. What we're building: personalized code email icebreaker, scrapes LinkedIn profiles, combines with CSV data, using the LLM to generate human sounding opening lines, learns from your ratings to improve. Let me open this back up again. View the plan. Okay, cool. And you can see here, it's even got its own little document that you can, or its own little graph that you can see. Sheet input, filter, Microsoft / Outlook, LinkedIn scraper, LLM generator, and then I can make whatever changes I want to make based on exactly what's going on down here. And that is the entirety of how these get one shot. You just talk to it, you plan it out, you go back and forth with it, you really, really pinpoint every single thing it's doing. And then next thing you know, you're all good to go. Here's the one that didn't work as the sort of like the end to this video, right? This is a directory finder. So the goal was to search for a list of directories that hold companies that match my ideal client and custom scrape a list of URLs from said directories. So the definition of success here was that links are provided once the description of the minimum viable contact is presented, clarified, and meets demand. The user can request changes to your search patterns, You ask me questions to flesh out what the ICP is if you don't have enough information to do a concrete search. Output must always be a CSV. Need to be able to ascertain through the HTML what the structure of the page is. The pagination type, is it an infinite scroll or a tab navigation? This is all information that I've gotten from scrapers that I've used in the past, like Instant Data Scraper and Bardeen. So this is me coming in with actual information as to how this is meant to work. If deep scraping, i.e. scraping within pages, so clicking on a page and then scraping within it, or clicking on a modal to open up some information and then scraping that, if that is needed, etc., find out if that's required, and then once done, provide a sample and proceed once confident that scrape worked. Handle timeouts, loading times, and scraper defects / errors gracefully. Output is always a new CSV / spreadsheet added to the attached Google Sheets Drive account. Read below for the idea. We want to do niche directory scraping based on a bunch of stuff. Now, this came from a Reddit post about how someone who's doing like 8 figures with cold email, for example, I think it was around that much, or 7 figures for different clients, was using directories in order to scrape from people. So this one here is we work backwards from the offer. For example, one of our offers is working capital. We don't just scrape CFOs and hope. First, we identify which industry structurally need working capital solutions, narrow it down to 5 verticals. Then we use AI and deep research to find niche directories for those verticals. So that's how that works. That was the general idea. This would be part of, if you see that was called the process, that would be context if we're talking about these 5 pillars. So we have this here. Now, why didn't it work? Well, if we go back in, and I'm actually going to go and try and find the chat. So this is what happened when we last tried to use it. So I basically found that it was just giving me a bunch of nonsense insofar as what the directories were, which is fine because I can prompt to make sure that they're good. But then it started telling me things like, I can't actually find this stuff. So I'll be honest with you, the web search keeps returning the same obvious directories no matter how I phrase it. The AI search isn't servicing the niche directories you're looking for as well. Honest assessment, the web search is completely stuck returning the same 10 obvious directories. That is what it is. It's fine. However, right at the end, and you can see this is sort of like the culmination, I tested 15 plus directories. Here's the reality. Blocked, partial, timeout, nothing, blocked, timeout, blocked. And then these are the reasons. Capture, Cloudflare, recapture, Cloudflare, recapture, selectors don't match, pagination detected, but the scraper's not getting any navigation links. The reality is almost every agency directory now uses Cloudflare or capture protection. This is industry standard right now in 2025. These are your options. So this is something that goes beyond what I currently understand about how scraping would work, and is also something that the AI is also not able to get around. If there was a way to get around Cloudflare that I actually have looked up, researched, and was able to prompt initially, or even right now, so that it could fix itself, this would work absolutely fine. But is what it is. We can't get there. It is what it is. Now, that gives us a nice understanding of how to generate the prompts for yourself, because you've seen from example. And the only thing that you would need to do is just take heed of what needs to be inside of a prompt. You can use one, some, or all of these, and these manifest in the different ways that I've shown you. So for example, you have the goal, the definition of success, and then the flow. You have a goal, definition of success, and then some example code, which would actually be fit under context or examples or even output requirements. You have the basic goal and definition of success. You have a goal, definition of success, and then context, which comes in the form of other prompts that you're injecting into it, because those are the prompts that the AI calls are going to use. And then you also have goal, definition of success, and any extra information that you know based on what you've done insofar as trying the thing yourself. So that's a brief understanding as to why I was able to one-shot some things and why I wasn't. Go forth and multiply. Go and do what you need to do with your own agents. There's a bunch of videos now insofar as how to do stuff in general, operations wise. If you're a business trying to increase your capacity for your team, or if you're just trying to build a bunch of stuff, I've got a bunch of that stuff on the YouTube. Click there and you'll find some stuff.